Right, that was the business news for you. Now, before we get into our interview regarding the new PSV rules, we want to bring you up to date with news just coming into our newsrooms tonight. We understand that the CID are currently looking for the CEOs of two leading mobile service provider companies in the country. The CID are currently looking for the CEOs of two leading mobile service providers in the country. We're hearing reports that the Orange Kenya CEO Mikhail Gosen may already be in police custody as we speak. This again, news just coming in. The CID are currently looking for the CEOs of two leading mobile service providers in the country. We are getting reports that the Orange CEO, that is Mikhail Gosen, is already in custody as we speak. We'll be giving you details on this, why they are being sought after by the police, and indeed confirming to you whether Mikhail Gosen is already indeed in custody as we are hearing. Keep it KTN for more news regarding that. But let's get into our interview on KTN Prime this evening. And as you know, road carnage is a thing that is worrying many Kenyans, and the government has come up with some new draft regulations in a bid to curb road carnage. And this evening I'm joined by the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, Nduva Muli. We thank you very much for making the time to be with us this evening. A raft of measures that have been put in place, including locking out individuals from owning PSVs. But the question that Kenyans continue to ask is, how different will things be this time? We had the Michuki rules, which were strict. We didn't see much when it came to implementation.
Now, what we're developing now are very regulations that will support self-regulation of the industry. And I would want to compare this with the airline industry. The airline industry is one of the industries that has got a lot of self-regulation. And self-regulation then creates internal pressure for change. And that's what we're trying to implement. And the objective is really to get people to work within circles or companies, because then we're able to deal with less people as a government authority and be able to deal with the problems at a wide level.
All right, and when we're talking about regulation, the TLB, comes to mind. Let's talk about that and the process of proper implementation. We've seen, like you said, self-regulation. We haven't seen so much success with regulation by the government. Self-regulation, how different will that be?
Well, what we're doing is that, for example, the operating licenses will now be given to the company and not to individual operators. And therefore, if one or two operators do not toe the line, then the whole group loses their operating license. And that means that there's pressure from within to ensure that people play by the rules. That's the way it's going to work.
And we're confident that people will play by the rules when they don't have regulation from outside?
Because we now have the National Transport and Safety Authority, which was also part of the weaknesses of the past way in which we were dealing with road safety. That there was no institution behind the management of road safety and road management and traffic management. Now that we have an institution, we are able to keep the momentum.
But that institution is already facing some challenges with certain stakeholders within the Matatu sector, saying they are not happy with how that was constituted. Does that spell trouble for the NTSA even before it begins?
No, we're listening to all the stakeholders. We're putting these regulations before the stakeholders, and therefore we will continue to engage. It's a journey, and I think we'll be able to solve those issues and iron out as we go along.
So no issues even as they were walking out during the launch? Many will remember that?
No, I think we've managed to deal with the stakeholders, get them to understand where we're going, and we want to partner. They're ahead of us already. They've already formed the circles. So we just want to give those circles the legal mandate to support us in self-regulation.
Now, a lot of these regulations that you're talking about will come into effect by 2014, and a lot of Kenyans saying we're losing people on our roads every single day. What happens between now and 2014?
No. Some of the articles of the regulations will start off immediately they're approved. Some of them require time. For example, we want to make the PSV industry a cashless industry, to try and remove cash, which has been part of the causes of corruption and so forth. Now that will require banks and all the players to prepare themselves. So some of those regulations will come in time. a lot of them are as immediate as once they are approved.
Finally, the police are usually at the tail end of this process. You would give licenses, but we also do depend on policemen on the roads to check whether these regulations are indeed being met and being followed to the letter. Ntulele was carrying well over capacity, that bus that was involved in that crash. How important are the police in these new regulations?
The police are a critical player. We are also pushing very, very hard for them to play their role in enforcement. But NTSA will ensure that we keep the police on their toes, and that we have, we're also going to develop other legal mechanisms to probably give NTSA certain powers to enforce the law, and that will become another source of enforcement.
Okay, all right. We thank you for your time this evening, Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure, Nduva Muli, telling us about the new regulations in the PSV sector to hopefully bring an end to the shocking numbers that we see. We thank you very much this evening.
Thank you.
All right.